Hey Gear Seekers, I'm Nick. Today we're checking out a brand new motherboard from NZXT. It's a very late Z490 entry for the Intel 10th Gen lineup, the NZXT N7 Z490. So without further ado, let's check it out. As usual with our motherboard content, this video is not a review. It's just an overview so you can get an idea of what comes in the box with a brand new motherboard and what's physically on the board when you buy something new like this. Now, the reason why I didn't decide to pull off any of these panels on the board at all is because by the time we got around to actually taking a look at this board, a lot of other videos have come out. So I'm going to recommend two videos. Go and check out eTechnics' video and also Craft Computing's review of this board. Two very different reviews that'll give you two nice perspectives on this board. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking. Let's take a closer look. Alrighty, ladies and gents, let's take a little bit of a closer look at the NZXT N7 Z490 motherboard that supports Intel's 10th gen CPUs. But first off, we need to get the motherboard out of the box so we can take a bit of a closer look at all of the things that come with this motherboard. And spoiler alert, it's not a whole lot. Okay, what's under flap number one? First up, we've got the manual. Now, the manual basically shows you what everything is on the board, where everything is, and how to configure the BIOS, and just basically standard motherboard stuff. If you're building for the first time, it's a good help. Under flap number two, what do we got next? We've got the Wi-Fi 6 antenna. Now, this is for the built-in Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.1. This antenna looks very familiar, and I'll talk about that a little bit later as well. There's also two M.2 screws for the two included M.2 slots on this motherboard. There's also two sets of SATA cables or SATA cables for your 2.5-inch SSDs or your spinning rush drives. This packaging also looks very familiar. Wonder what's going on here. All right, let's get the motherboard unsheathed. Let's pop off those M.2 slot covers and take a little bit of a closer look at NZXT's third motherboard, the N7 Z490. First up, we've got our front panel audio connector. There's a 3-pin 5-volt addressable RGB connector. There's also a 4-pin 12-volt analog RGB connector. There's 3 USB 2.0 headers for AIOs and other RGB controls that you can add to your PC at any point in time. There's also 3 PWM fan headers for your fans to make them spin, to make them power, to make them turn on. And there's also a power and a reset button on the bottom, as well as the front panel connector for the lights and switches to let you know your PC's on. There's 4 SATA or SATA ports for your 2.5-inch SSDs or your spinning rush drives, and a standard USB 3.0 header. I think this is USB 3.2 Gen 1 from memory, but I'm not sure. There's also a front panel USB Type-C header and a 24-pin power connector to send all your juice to your brand new motherboard. Along the top side of the board, we've got 2 more PWM fan connectors. We've got 2 NZXT RGB headers. This is for software control in NZXT's CAM software. There's an AIO pump connector and another PWM fan connector for a CPU fan. As well as that, there's a 4-pin EPS power connector and an 8-pin EPS power connector as well. If we take a look at the PCIe slots, we've got a by 1 slot, we've got a full-size by 16 slot, we've got another full-size by 16 slot that is wired in by 4, and 2 more by 1 slots towards the bottom of the board. Because this is a Z490 motherboard, it does feature Intel's Z490 chipset. It doesn't need to be actively cooled, it is passively cooled. Speaking of passive cooling, the N7 Z490 features an 8+2 Dr. Moss digital VRM setup. I didn't have time to pull this board apart. This board arrived very late on. And yes, because this is an Intel Z490 board, it does feature Intel's LGA 1200 socket that supports 10th gen Intel CPUs. If we flip the board over, there's not a lot going on here. You can see that the IO shield is permanently attached to the rear of the board. There's 4 DDR4 RAM slots which support a total of 128 gigs of RAM at 4133 MHz overclocked. As mentioned a little bit earlier on in the video, there is 2 M.2 slots. These are PCIe Gen 3 slots. There's one at the top and this one towards the bottom as well. Just keep in mind that the slot covers for the M.2 slots on this board are not heat sinks. There's 2 antenna connectors for the built-in Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.1. There's a clear CMOS button. There's an HDMI port as well. I think this is probably HDMI 2.0. There's also 2 USB ports. There's not a lot of connectivity on the back of this board, in fact. There's also a USB Type-C port. There's 2.5 gigabit Ethernet with a Realtek controller. There's also 7.1 digital surround sound with optical and SPDIF out. Okay, you know what time it is, ladies and gents? It's B-roll time. Let's do it. All right, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed the first look at this brand new NZXT board. Now, before we go on, there's a few things that I noticed while taking a closer look, and the keen-eyed out there might have actually noticed this too, but ladies and gents, I suspect, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that this, although we know it's like a Foxconn OEM board, I think this is a rebranded ASRock board. There's a few telling signs. The first thing I noticed, and the reason why I'm going to say this, is because last year at Computex with the X570 boards, ASRock made a big deal in their press conference about this new floating rear I/O shield that is adjustable just by sliding it up and down. And lo and behold, this NZXT board has exactly the same thing going on. And the other thing I noticed that you probably don't find on many other motherboards are the BIOS version and the actual chip version on a little gold sticker on the I/O cover. Now this is something that ASRock's done forever and no other motherboard manufacturers really do it. So those are two things that I can tell. It looks very, very similar to the Z490 Steel Legend and the Extreme 4, but it's not quite the same, but it does look like it's a pretty ASRocky board. Although I haven't fired this thing up, so it's pretty hard to tell, but once I get around to doing that, I'll investigate a little bit further. The other thing that leads me to believe that it might be an ASRock board or even a rebranded BIOS-style board is the lack of rear I/O. So yeah, that's basically all I've got to say about it. I haven't used the board yet, so I'm just giving you my first impressions really. Anyways guys, if you're interested in grabbing one of these boards, they're going for around $229 US. I'm not sure about Australian pricing at this point in time. If I do find out, or if I get a message from NZXT and they let me know, I'll put it in the description down below so you can find that out. I'll put it in a pinned comment. Anyways, guys, if you like the music you heard here, I make all the music. It's available over on our Patreon. If you want to get early access to videos just like this one, come and check us out on Floatplane. Yes, we are on Floatplane. Once again, thank you so very much for watching. I'm your boy Nick with Gear Seekers. You peek, we seek. And if you dislike the video, you know what they need to do, Claire? Hit the dislike button twice. Right? That's how it works. Yep. You hit it twice and it lets us really know that you didn't like the video. Anyways, thanks for watching. What do we have here? Two cats sleeping on the bed. There's a big cat and there's a pork chop. Look at them, they're together in the same video. This has never happened before. Look how sleepy you guys are. It's like midday, the middle of the day. How are you so sleepy? Big cat. Oh, you are so cute, buddy. Aren't you just the cutest boy ever? Oh, you're cute. You're making all kinds of cat sounds right now. This is why I never get anything done. Because both of you are too cute for your own good. And look at your little face. I'm not sure if she's ugly or she's cute. Let me know in the comments. But you dude, are definitely the best cat in the world. Ugh.